So Sethi, good to have you, Neeti. Now, your Q1 numbers have been impacted because of the lower PAN issuances, I guess, in the election season. Will we see these financials improve sequentially in the second quarter?
So revenue from operations decreased 11% year on year, but largely this was on account of an overall reduction in the PAN issuances across the industry. As a result, and that was also largely attributable to the high election activity during the first quarter. Despite that, we've seen that we've got a significant market share uprise in the PAN volumes. We've increased our market share from 50% in Q1 FY54 to 54% in Q1 FY25. And if you look at our other businesses, pension businesses grew. They posted a healthy 13% year-on-year growth. And the identity services, which run a lot on the back of digitization and digital India growth, also posted a healthy growth of almost 27% year-on-year. So it was just a PAN dip that we have. And we see momentum going strong, especially with some of the budget announcements, which clearly were very much in favor of the businesses we are in, stressing on digital public infrastructure, digital transformation of the country. And we see these as big tailwinds, which will help us to further grow.
So what is the scope for DPI in the next 3 years? A lot of push and positive budget announcements are made for digital public infra.
Some of the very important announcements, as I said, which are aligned with the lines of business or the way we are contributing in creating the digital infrastructure of the country. First was a big call out to look at multi-sectoral DPI creation using India's very visionary DPI framework. And here we were looking at stress given towards commerce, mobility, which is ONDC, education and skilling was a big factor in the budget. Likewise, a lot of stress on Agri and Agri DPI, health. All these areas the company is already contributing in. The other very interesting focus we saw in the budget was in regard to private sector contributing in creating DPI applications, especially serving the MSME sector, purely to create digital lending, digital services. Again, very well constructed, both with our thrust in building stacks for enabling digital lending, digital onboarding, and very closely linked to our identity services, where we are one of the only companies in the country which cover all four facets of the digital identity. You saw very clear focus on Agri stack. Now, Protean received a mandate in 2023 to contribute towards building the central Agri stack of the country. And there we see a lot of work happening with now almost 10 states who are joined to start the POC. And this Agri stack is going to enable various data sharing and data information ecosystem, as a result of which multiple use cases supporting Agri lending, Agri marketplaces, insurance advisory will come true for the agriculture sector. And last but not least, one of our legacy businesses got a big thrust with a clear focus by the government to create a highly pensioned society. There's a clear expansion of market with 40 crore miners coming into the space of NPS as a result of NPS Vatsalya. And likewise, there was a 40% increase in employer contribution, which again bodes very well for inculcating savings and pension behavior. And we see this as a big thrust going for us.
Right, morning. Now, the pension for minors, what kind of an opportunity is this for the company? What kind of an addition can we see to your top line revenue on the back of this?
So see, this actually opens up a new market. While every year we almost had 12 crore, fresh labor force or fresh people coming into the economy from an employment perspective. And that is where you were also seeing the pension accounts getting opened. But with NPS Vatsalya, you are now talking about the minor, population in the country, and that is almost 40 crore minors. So currently, if we look at it, we have, around a base of around 8 CR pensioners in the country, which are covered under NPS and Atal Pension Yojana. And this gives a big thrust to opening a totally new segment for the industry.
Right. Mr. Sethi, ONDC transaction linked services, by when is it that we can expect the revenue to start contributing to the company?
So ONDC, in a manner, is already, we operate at two levels. We are providing the technology which is powering the entire network. And at that level, we already, get compensated for the tech we've created, the gateways, the registries that we are running for the ecosystem. The other play is clearly on the application side, where we are building buyer and consumer or buyer and seller tech, which goes for the network participants, and extension services which are playing in the space of whether it is reconciliation or settlement, or it is towards catalog as a service. And all these, we've got a few customers, and that is where we are seeing the SaaS model playing out and some revenues coming from there. But very closely, it is linked to ONDC as a network expanding and getting adopted. And as we've seen, there have again been a spectacular growth on the ONDC numbers. Purely from the transactional side, and being a SaaS model, it clearly is looking pretty, sort of robust as of now.
Okay. Expectations from the government and DPIs, where does the thrust lie according to you?
So there is clearly going to be focus on the agriculture side to build more resilience and, strengthen the ecosystem. And looking at the Agri stack as an Agri DPI, which will help sharing of farmer information. As we know that Agri is a state subject, so enabling state and center sharing of information through standard protocols on Agri infrastructure rails in a consented manner, and then enabling multiple use cases, which will help in Agri lending, creation of Agri marketplaces, and likewise providing advisory and crop insurance services is going to be definitely a big thrust. All other DPIs, as we see in terms of other sectors, ONDC is one. We've already spoken about it. When we look at digital commerce, we look at propensity of people to do now open finance on an open network, which means enabling borrowers and lenders to come in open network for discovery and provision of lending services. Similarly, multiple use cases of transport and mobility are coming through. So that is another strong vector playing out. And other two areas clearly are something, again, we are seeing good thrust, education and skilling, looking at that entire ecosystem to create open rails on which we can do discovery of education financing, discovery of internships, of jobs. So looking at the entire life cycle of an individual, right from learning to getting finance for the same, to finding internships, to finding jobs, is going to be a very important life cycle enablement that is going to help in that space.
And what is the pipeline for the new businesses? What kind of growth guidance are you looking at?
So the new businesses are getting the necessary support out of all these announcements. So if we look at outside our core businesses, which namely are in the area of taxation, which is PAN issuance, area of pension, where we are the largest central record keeping agency in the country today, supporting both NPS and APY, and identity services. Over and above that, the new areas we are in is one is clearly open digital ecosystems, which is where we are talking about all contribution and multi-sectoral digital public infrastructure, which is getting also a strong push from the government. The other focus area for us is building on the data stack, building on the core foundational identity services. We are looking at creating an entire suite of APIs for digital onboarding and lending, which is a product we launched called Protean Rise. We've launched another product in the last quarter called Protean X, which specifically looks at verifiable credentials. Now, while you have a verifiable identity, ultimately we are holding a lot of identity documents. So how do you create verifiable and authentication layer on top of these documents for enabling, again, multiple use cases, be it for lending, be it for consuming any services like certificates for education, for land records, for death certificates, so on and so forth. And the other key area clearly is in the area of digital signing. We've again launched a product called eSign Pro, which is built on top of, again, identity. It is Aadhaar enabled. It is a complete documentation suite. and allows you to do any digital signing of, agreements, contracts, which will make the end-to-end lending processes completely paperless.
Right, Mr. Sethi, great to have you today on ET Now and highlight how your earnings have been.